What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and today I'm back at it to bring you 40 facts on the Warhammer 40K universe. But this time we're doing things a little bit differently. Just recently we have been given an awesome short story by the creator known as Fable Wolfe. Now this short story is called The Last Astartes, and wow, this is really great stuff. So, because of that, I decided to share this with you as Fable Wolfe has shared it with us. So this short story called The Last Astartes will be taking up maybe two or three videos for sure, because it's pretty lengthy, even though it's considered a short story, but nonetheless it is amazing. So without further ado, guys, let's jump into Fable Wolfe's short story titled The Last Astartes. The sun set on a horizon ablaze with flame smoldered with black smoke. Crumbling towers of Gothic rockcrete and metal rose and fell against hillsides spread far between rivers and burning forests. Above, aircraft rushed rapidly past one another, some tearing asunder in great blasts of molten metal. Great dark silhouettes spread between the clouds, exchanging the lances of golden light. The great war in the clouds only paled, however, in comparison to the many small dots that spread across the battered landscape below, sending beams of last fire and inaccurate bullet storms against one another. It was amid this burning cityscape that a large hill rose above the lower clusters of crumbling buildings, enveloped in its entirety by a rockcrete foundation, supporting at its peak a large cathedral. This cathedral supported itself with massive arcs, tipped by golden spikes, standing as steadfast guardians to the great center of worship. Despite the enduring foundation, much of the roof had been torn away by means of explosive force. The straight glass windows cracked and shattered under the mighty rocketry. Crude they may have been. Approaching this great cathedral to the God Emperor was a massive swath of green-skinned creatures, dressed in crude metallics, their collective roar amassing as one mighty death knell to their foes. Those that stood before this green tide, that quickly scaled the many rockcrete steps that led to the cathedral, were just 3 men, clad in power armor of crimson, jet, and azure, emblazed with a jagged white skull upon each left shoulder pad. On the 3 Astartes that stood before the horde, one stood clearly apart from the rest. He bared no helmet to hide his stoic features, hair shaved to a neat dark swath upon his head. A flagpole spread up from his backpack, displaying the chapter standard of the Crimson Skulls, its grimacing bleached skull underlined by the high Gothic words, Vindicio Mortuus. The captain's power armor was decorated by garnishments of bright silver, his right shoulder pad encompassed by a massive glaring silver skull that threatened its enemies with the might of the chapter. In his right hand clasped was a glowing chainsword, painted by contrasting black and red, a similarly colored bolt pistol in the other hand. On both his right and left, 2 others Astartes stood. One of them was equipped with a large black shotgun, its muzzle scratched to bolt gun metal and spread with soot from extended use. This battle brother hid his features behind a helmet, modified from that of standard issue, its face designed to mimic the grimacing skull of which chapter was so fond of. It was crimson, the bone of the skull silver, and it complemented its silver-garnished power armor, marked to the right shoulder by a single purity seal. On the captain's left was another Astarte, this one bearing a black and red bolter. Its armor was nearly identical to the other masked brother, save for a lack of purity seals. He stood up with 2 squadmates, steadfast determination in his demeanor, even as he stared down upon the green tide crested above the base of the cathedral. "A fine challenge, wouldn't you say, brothers?" the captain spoke, placing a proud optimism in his tone. "A fine death, I might say," said the Astartes bearing the shotgun. "The greenskins have overwhelming numbers." The captain gave a small chuckle. "Have you no faith, brother Malik?" Malik inspected his weapon for a moment, ensuring that it was fully loaded to meet the first greenskins within his sights. "Aye, I have faith," Malik answered, looking only outward into the horde, as it stumbled its way ever closer to the top of the cathedral, spitting roaring war cries. "Faith that the Emperor shall take our lives this day in his service." The other Astartes, the one bearing the bolter, stepped forward from his battle line and took aim at the top of the steps. "If we die this day, brother Malik," the man said, "then we shall take 100 of these Xenos, blasphemers, 100 for each of us." The captain laughed. "I commend your spirit, brother Marwin." He stepped forward as well, prompting Malik to follow and reform their battle line at the top of the stairs. "But do not forget our mission here. This cathedral is of strategic importance. If we can hold this land, the green tie may yet be broken." The three Astartes raised their weapons at the ready, and Malik's mind was only awash with doubt. Doubt which went against his teachings, doubt which went against his fate, but nonetheless he doubted still. In the end, he feared that their sacrifice would only be in vain. This world had been besieged for nearly a month now, assaulted by the spaceborne hordes of the Flame Treaders Greenskin clan, under the command of war boss Thraza Worldburna. If the orcs should take this world from the hold of the chapter, Malik knew that the future was not just of that of his chapter, but also of all the imperial rule in this sector could very well be lost. But it was not just the strategic importance that fear had in Malik's heart. This world was Lenwyn's prime, a fortress world claimed by the Crimson Skulls millennia ago, and home to billions, including Malik himself. It was from Lenwyn that the Crimson Skulls drew many of their initiates, a world that the chapter would be hard-pressed to retake. A powerful wall slammed into the three Astartes like a cyclone, cutting Malik's thoughts as the greenskins raced towards up on the steps. Some orcs fired shots from their crude shooters, missing or glancing against the blockade of Astartes before them. "Ready, my brothers?" the captain asked, revving his chainsword to life. "For the Emperor." The three Astartes joined together in a chorus of battle cries, meeting the orc horde with an equally imposing force of sound. In mere moments, the first of the orcs closed upon them. Malik fired with a spray of his shotgun, blasting back two small greenskins in a splatter of scarlet gore. Marwin placed 2 precise bolter shots per target, quickly relieving 3 orcs of their grotesque heads. The captain did the same with his bolt pistol, killing 2 before giving a horizontal slash of his chainsword to another. In mere seconds, 8 more took the place of those slain. Malik blasted away 2 with a pump of his shotgun, and with a whip of his bright hand against the jaw of an orc that had attempted melee. The tusked jaw came loose as teeth scattered, sending the orc to the ground. The captain slammed his chainsword into an attacker, slowly chewing through the screaming xenobeast to spray gore upon the crimson power armor. Marwin drowned several more before expelling his magazine. Before he could reload, one of the beasts leapt through the air with Chappa aimed for his head. Marwin reacted quickly, catching the orc by the throat. The Astartes threw his combatant to the ground, and in a moment crushed his skull beneath his armored boot. He reloaded quickly, and turned his bolter to fire back into the green tide. The 3 Astartes battled in such a fashion for quite some time. Before a click, Malik found his shotgun had run dry. Malik reacted quickly and gripped his gun by its barrel, utilizing now as a makeshift bludgeon weapon. With 2 quick swings, he crushed the skulls of a couple orcs, giving Malik a moment to retrieve his bolt pistol that he kept sheathed on his thigh. The captain had long since sheathed his empty pistol, slashing in twain any orc that dared near his reach. Marwin too had resorted to his bolt pistol, his bolter now sheathed on the opposite thigh. Despite many greenskin corpses that had piled at their feet, despite the red gore that now painted the silver of their skulled armor, the orc horde had only grown in number. Now each Astartes was forced to take on more than 5 foes at a time, stretching the limits of both their ammunition and their stamina. Finally, there was a small break in the greenskin assault, and Malik spoke to his captain. "We must pull back," he shouted above the bolter fire. "If we retrieve a more strategic position—" "No, we will not give ground," the captain's tones was furious. "The horde cannot breach this staircase." Malik clenched his jaw in anger, but decided against their argument. Instead, he focused his fury onto the oncoming 6 orcs. His bolt pistol made short work of 3 of them, before its magazine ran dry once again. In quick reflex, Malik dropped his pistol to the ground and caught one of the orc by the wrist. With his superior strength, the Astartes pulled the Xeno forward and drove his elbow into the beast's face, shattering its skull. The creature, dead, Malik wrenched free from the crudely sharpened war axe in its clutches and hurled it at an oncoming attacker, cleaving the orc's face in 2. He then blocked the next swing of an axe with his gauntlet, kicking the attacker back as his fellows shattered behind him. Quickly, he retrieved his pistol, reloaded, and fired back into the greenskin horde. The squad of Astartes, now blood-drenched and exhausted, soon found themselves faced with yet more growing numbers. Empty of ammunition, both Malik and Marwin had come to rely solely on their combat blades and raw superhuman strength. It was then, however, that the assault seemed to pause. Malik dared not gain false hope. From amongst the rabble of orcs below, the lot of which were now demoralized by the sheer tenacity of their foes, another creature stood tall. A massive greenskin, clad mostly in jagged steel and crude cybernetics, raised a power claw above his head and unleashed in his voice another wah. The horde resumed its attack, with renewed fervor this time, and Malik quickly realized that this would be his doom.